It says going live, and now it says we're live. Awesome.
We're live.
Let me just make sure.
All
right, let me. Oh yeah, the volume's okay. Awesome. Andres, how are you, my friend?
And good, Josh. Good morning from Mexico.
Yeah, good morning to everybody.
We are live. Excellent.
Hello,
everybody.
We are live, and this is episode 3 of the Visto vlog, where we're preparing to bring Andreas to Canada. And in episode 3, what we wanted to talk about was the actual documents themselves, and we're going to pull some up and actually go through them, right, Andreas? So maybe what we'll do is we can quickly talk about the documents from your end and what it was like having to get them, and any struggles or any tips, and then we can talk about the employer documents. So that list is a little bit shorter, but we'll talk about the employment agreement, and we'll talk about the offer letter. And if anybody has any questions, by all means, we wanted to do this session live because there were a lot of people that seem to be enjoying the videos, and maybe they have questions. So anyways, we're here live. If you do have any questions about the process or any documents that we're going through, please feel free to post in the comments, or just say hello. Let us know where you're checking in from, or if you have any thoughts or questions like that. Okay, so Andres, so I'm on the page. Where's the documents link?
The document, let me share with you.
Is it on that same page?
Yes, right now we are on the same
Oh, there,
page.
blurred. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me pull this up. So we're actually going to pull up Andreas's blurred out documents, and I'm going to share my screen right now. Where is it? Here, share screen. Okay, so everybody should actually be able to see my screen. And Andreas, maybe if you start watching the stream and mute it, then you can actually see my screen live as well. But let's go through them one at a time, and then Andreas as well, you can kind of talk us through what it took, and if there were any difficulties or anything like that. So the first one I have is it looks like a reference letter from Interalia.
Yes, Interalia was my last official contractor. Okay, I have working from day for 10 years, more or less. My whole career professionally was built in that agency. Interalia is in a digital marketing company who offers services of marketing, digital marketing to the big brands like Coca-Cola, Kellogg's, Kia Motors, a lot of big brands. That was amazing because we have built a lot of websites in more like focus in promotional websites, or like website for like promotion the brand, or for promotion some kind of event of the brands, no, and the product, of course, no. So we have built games too. We have built a lot of social networks integration. We have built Facebook applications, a lot of stuff, not to make marketing outside. Well, and
Okay.
that's my reference letter. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so and what's important that we want here is we're using the reference letter to prove work experience, and why we need Andreas in Canada. So I'll quickly highlight the things that are important to look for and hopefully get when you're getting a reference letter. So things like the company letterhead here at the top is good. We want obviously the full name, so in this case Andreas's full name, the title of the positions that he's held, and then the dates and the main duties and responsibilities really help. So it looks like here, Andreas, you had many different roles at the company, and so they outlined it quite well, where they're outlining the different titles you held over the years, which years that you were, working as those different roles, and then the duties and responsibilities for each. So this is actually a very good reference letter.
Josh, this structure of the reference letters are for the Visto platform.
Oh yeah. So you heard it here first. If you guys need that, because it's very important, right? Some companies have different kind of structures to their reference letter, or maybe they don't write them very often. So we have a free template on the Visto platform. If you go to Visto.ai, sign up, and you go under the, I believe it's under the Express Entry Documents page. You'll find it. You'll find a templated reference letter. Was it hard to get, Andreas, in terms of like actually communicating with the company and getting them to prep it?
At the end, wasn't a long relationship. I know the owner and CEO of the company, and every element in 10 years working with they, I have known everybody. So it was very easy to take the documentation. Okay, can you? I fill it up everything. Obviously, the Blu-ray, the details not is like the salary range was bring it from human resource department, okay, and the benefits, okay. That is the only thing I don't feel, but everything. Well, in 10 years, I have to remember what I did in the first 5 years. Then when I get promoted, what was the next operations or responsibilities I had. That was the hard part, not trying to remember in a long road my duties and responsibilities. No, but I have filled it up, I have typed it, and I bring it to the owner of the company. I said, "Is everything good? Looks good. Sync, and if not, we can change the details." And he said, okay, Andres is good. And you're not lying. You do this and more. But he said he signs very well. So the only problem is I left in the company, so they are not happy to see that document.
Right, and that's why I think it can be very helpful, especially if you've worked for an employer that might not be quick or happy to write this for you, is draft it for them, right, with the requirements that you know are needed. Make it easy for them so that they don't have to do that much more work. And then it's also important to note here that the info that is blurred out that is important to have is the salary, as Andreas mentioned, and then at the bottom here is the signature and probably the full name and contact information of the person who's signing. So that's also obviously important, because if IRCC wants to check or communicate with the company, they need some form of communication information, right? So email and phone number being the most common. Cool. So that looks good. Let's move on. Obviously, an important document is the passport. So this is pretty straightforward. I mean, we have there for a few of your family members. I'm not going to keep them up for too long because that's pretty personal stuff. But passports, any issues with that, Andreas?
No, you can show. It's blurred. My passport is in red, and my daughter is blurred the face too. So you can show it.
Cool.
You can see the passport on the actual Mexican passport. Have my yes, exactly. Have my picture, my personal information, my signature. For example, this is the passport for my daughter. Open it. No, not a problem.
Yep.
You can see my name, the identifier for the passport, and that's in a book. That book open, no? So in that book comes with this with the sign when you enter to another country. At the end, it's in a little book. I have four more passport expired, obviously, but it contains the records I joined it in United States 15 years ago. 20 years ago, you know? So I carry it because in some kind of future I need a visa to get in another country. So I need to prove I have joined and I get out from the another countries. So that is my support for that kind of document.
Got it.
So that is the passport for a Mexican person. It's identifiable citizenship too, and it's my identification in another country. Yeah.
Yep. And what's important here is, number one, you have the most important page covered, obviously, what they call the biographical page with your photo, signature, etc. And then make sure that this is a very clear scan, right? And so in this case, this is a very high quality scan that Andreas was able to do. You don't want any details blurry. You don't want anything, any information unable to be read. And then it's usually good practice, as Andreas alluded to, if you have old passports, especially if you have old passports with stamps in them, or if you have other pages of your passport with stamps in them, it usually won't hurt to include those as well. In this case, Andreas, you'll likely be applying at the port of entry, in which case they'll see your passport, right? They'll have it in hand. But also when you hand them over the application package, we obviously want them to have everything they need there. So this looks very good. Let's go to the next one here. So this is, in this case, Andreas is a married man, and so it's very important to have the marriage certificate, right? Or whatever the document might be called in your country that proves the marriage. Andreas, anything extra that went into this one?
No, the marriage certificate, well, in my country, you can get married for two ways. In the part of the religious, okay, I'm Catholic, and the part for federal government. It's an approved, or you are joined in a union with another person, but legally in the country. So that's a marriage proof. So I have married for the two ways, and that's the document who the government output for a certification of marriage. No? It's only you go to the government office, you pay a fee, and he give you this document, okay? And this document needs to be translated. So something important to say, no?
Yeah, well, maybe we'll do a quick sidebar right now. So for any immigration application, if your document isn't in English or French, it does have to be professionally translated. So you can't simply, write your own translation of it. You do have to go through it kind of depends which country you're in, what terminology they use, but a certified translator or a notarized translation. What's that process, or what was that process like for you, Andres? Because I think you had a few that had to be translated, right?
Right. And when I start looking for, okay, I need to translate my documentation, what will be the step to move forward? So first I go in the locals and I try to figure out what is a certificate translations. So I get in my country, especially in Mexico, there are special professionals for translation, for certificate translations. In Mexico, it's called perito traductor. It's like the translation can be certificate translation by the government. Okay, it's the person who, for example, some crime is happens outside, no, in the city, and they found English documents what can be an evidence. Then you need the government needs to contract some person to translate that documentation from English to Spanish to get an evidence, to be a certificate document. So that is the reason, because exists that position in Mexico. No? Sometimes in the government can translate and certificate translations. So you can the professional can hold a certification translation. So, well, you can use the, like privately, not for the government, to certificate documents. So I contract this certificate professional, and I give you, okay, this document, how will be, and a certificate, what will be the cost, no? Of the translation. I said, more or less, there is a range from the person to person. So it can cost 600 Mexican pesos to 200 Mexican pesos, depending the person. Okay, and well, I go for on a medium level, so I get it on a very cheap uh, translation locally. It's more
Hmm.
like $20 Canadians.
Right. Yeah, and prices will probably vary widely based on your country, but yeah, very important that you use a reliable provider, whether it's something government offered like Andreas mentioned, or just a private company. And again, if you go into the Visto platform, we have a few companies that we trust, know, and trust, so you can use those there as well.
I think, Josh, something important to mention is you can use another translator certificated from another country. For example, I'm in Mexico, and I can contract someone for Colombia to do the translation. But
Yes.
the important is certificate the translation. What is the certificate translation? It's a copy on the document, and the document will contain a sign and how you
Kind
say
of
it?
like a seal, like almost if
A
you look
seal, yeah.
here, yeah, like on the marriage certificate, how in the bottom right hand corner you can kind of see a bit of a seal. So exactly as you said, like on a properly certified translated document, they should have some sort of seal there as well.
Yes, and of course the contacts for the translator, email, the phone number, the person, the the license number for the translator, etc., etc., etc.
Absolutely. And Mariella has a good question here. Mariella asks, do you submit both documents, the original and the translated document? It's a good question, and you do want to include both, Mariella. So you definitely want the original and the certified translated copy. That's a very good question. Cool. Let's move on, Andres, to the, what do we have here? Local police certificate. What
Yes,
was that like?
this document I have to notice, Josh, is important. It's a local, okay? In Mexico, for getting a police certification, you can get two ways. The federal, that's in a document you get exposed to the whole country, okay? And this document said you don't do any damage to the country in the whole country. And this is showing up right now in the document. Is in background in green. This police certificate is only for the place I live in the state or the province. Okay. In this case, this certificate is only for Yucatan. Okay. This does mean I'm free of charge in the whole country, only in my province. Okay. So I bring this because this one is not useful for my process for immigration because it's only for the province. I need the federal one. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That is something I bring to the table and make the big difference. No. So here's my name, my picture, and he said in my address, and the document say Andres is free of charge and anything. He's a good citizenship, good citizen, and isn't a good person. That's it said, and I signed for the police officer, and I will reference numbers, blah 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 blah, and I have to pay it, and I give it. I have to go to the office, paid for the document, and receive it. But it's only applied for my city. Okay, it doesn't make it not. I get it. I don't get it.
Yeah,
That means it's in another province. I don't get a good citizenship.
yeah, and it's important to highlight because generally speaking, this really depends widely on the application, the type of application you're submitting, and then also what country you live in, right? So if a police certificate is required, it's the federal one is going to be required, as you mentioned. And then the process of actually getting it can be wildly different depending on what country you're in, right? In your case, Andreas, for Yucatan, you have to go in person, you have to pay for it. In some countries, you can just apply for them online. In some countries, they're free. In some countries, they cost a few bucks. So it really depends. I highly recommend, and this is usually what we do, with our clients that we're working with is if you do have to get a police certificate, we link you directly to the IRCC website where you can get specific instructions by country on the best way to get a police certificate, so you know it's the proper one and you know that it'll be accepted by them as well. So that's very important. Okay, let's look at, last but not least, the birth. This looks like a birth certificate, Andreas, for one of your children.
Yes, the birth certificate. You go the same like the marriage certificate. I get it at the same time. You get a certification, and this certification of born is not happy spirit. It's a have date expiration. Very different for a police certification, no? And yes, it's the born certificate, and I think it needs translated too. Yes, it needs to be translated. Right now, I don't have the translation yet, but it's in progress. No? So this is from.
Maybe in the next episode, we'll take a look at translated ones, just so that we can show people what the translated version looks like. We can talk about doing that as well. But yeah, all of these documents, in Andreas's case, the marriage certificates and the birth certificates, since they're not in English or French, they will have to be professionally translated. But these ones pretty straightforward, right, Andreas? Like birth certificate you get when your child is born, generally. Marriage certificate you get when your marriage is legally completed. So not terribly complex, right?
Right. And just this certification is physical. I have the paper.
Right.
But there are an online version too. I have to pay more, but you get a PDF. So obviously you send this PDF to the translator, and the translator gives you a certificated and sealed translation. The both can hold, or you need physical the documentation at the end.
Well, it depends how you're applying, right? So in most cases, we apply for our clients online, which means you only need the PDF version, right? So a copy of it you don't even need a custom PDF version, right? If you walk into a Mexican certified translator with your original marriage certificate and they do a hard copy translation, you can just go home, scan that, and upload it for a work permit application. Just make sure that the scanning is in high quality, right? Again, we want the processing agents, to be able to see all of this information. In your case, if you're applying at port of entry, or if you're submitting a paper-based application, you're obviously going to need a physical copy, right? So that is what you would be included in the application. In most cases, it's a copy, right? It can depend, again, depending on the application and the document itself. But in most cases, you're submitting copies, right? You're not actually sending your real marriage certificate into IRCC. You're taking a high-quality scan copy of that original and including that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense, yeah. Yeah, obviously, when you get on the point of entry, the officer will ask for that documentation in physical.
So the way it typically works at the port of entry is you basically want to treat the application like it's a paper-based application and put it all into one envelope and hand it over, right? So you're not necessarily going up to the desk and they're saying, okay, requirement number 1, hand it over, and you hand in $12.95, right? Okay, give me your marriage certificate. Okay, here's number 2, right? You want to show up with a nice package, so all of your documents, they're organized, properly. They're all in a big envelope, and you just hand the entire thing over. That's also going to include, what we have to do, Andreas, is we have to include things like the PDF forms that are filled out, right? 1295, 5707, etc., etc. And you also have to include the document, document checklist. That's actually a document requirement, right? When you're applying by paper. When you're applying online, you don't have to include a checklist because it's kind of built into your online profile. But when you're applying paper-based, and especially in your case at the POE, you're going to actually have to print out the document checklist and check all the things off. And they usually say to have the document checklist as the document at the very top.
Okay.
So that's something
Makes sense.
we can finalize that maybe in the next week. And for episode 4, maybe what we can do is once you and I have kind of like finalized the application package, in the next episode, we can just quickly go through every item that's included. Maybe we won't pull everyone up on screen, but most of them, especially if we do a little bit of blurring, we can talk our way through every document that's included, including document checklist, IMM forms, all that kind of stuff. Okay, the only other thing, Andreas, that I wanted to talk about quickly was the employment documents. So in this case, and I'm just looking over here to my left because I'm pulling them up, is we're including 2 things, and one of them is an employment agreement, and one of them is a confirmation of employment letter. And I'll quickly talk about why. The employment agreement is obviously a requirement, right? You need to prove the
relationship.
The relationship and that you're needed here in Canada. And then secondly, as part of the specific application, I'm going to go back to not sharing screen here for a second. The confirmation of employment letter is because as part of the CUSMA professional requirements, they're asking for a few more details that aren't normally included in an employment agreement, right? So they were asking for things like, why do we need you in Canada right now? Proof of your experience, duties of the role, etc., etc. In some cases, some of those are included in an employment agreement. Like in our employment agreement with you, we did include some a description of the role. But it's usually a good idea in any immigration application to be very, be on the safe side and provide a little bit more information than is necessary. Maybe I'll bring up the let me just see if there's anything that needs to be hidden in the confirmation of employment letter. Not really. Should I share that? Just the confirmation of employment letter? It doesn't mention
Yes, but not only insurance is not sure with the salary.
I don't think it's even mentioned.
Yes, I remember. Yes, only double check it.
No,
I don't. I bring them.
Yeah, it doesn't mention. There's no numbers. I might actually add that in after because it might be good to mention it again. But I'll just give everyone a quick look here of the confirmation of employment letter, which is, again, and as almost any letter from an employer should be, is on Visto letterhead. We start with the date, to IRCC. I'm writing on behalf of Visto to confirm the employment offer to Andreas. We mention the title. We mention a few of the duties. So right here, some of the duties. And then what I do is I highlight the importance of needing Andreas here in Canada, right? So this is for ongoing employment. We need Andreas to get work authorization in Canada so that he can come work with our team in person, etc., etc. I quickly highlight that he has the skills and experience necessary to fill the role. And then in my case, because I don't know if we've confirmed, I don't remember if we came up with a final decision, Andreas, on whether we'll list me as a paid rep. Well, I'm not a paid representative, but I could be included just as a regular representative on your application. I don't think it would hurt. Obviously, this is a fringe case, right? Most employers aren't immigration lawyers, so this part is a little unique to our scenario. But it might help to include me as a representative on your application, because then if there is any hiccup, you can call me or they can call me and I can talk on behalf of you to whoever's processing the application. So again, that's something you and I can finalize offline, and then in the next episode we'll talk about what we decided to do, right? Did we want to move forward with that or not? But that's a scenario that probably not too many people will find themselves in, right? There's only so many immigration lawyers that are also sponsoring foreign workers. But anyways, and that's it. Was there anything else, Andreas? What we can do is we can wrap this one up.
I need to define very well I have the big idea is the forms we'll need to fill up.
So I think that would be good for you to do on your own, and then maybe on the next episode, I'll review them at some point anyways, and then maybe on the next episode, we're obviously not going to go through the full form sharing screen because there's very personal information there. But maybe maybe we can review the form together, but I won't share the form on screen, and we can talk about questions that you struggled with or were confused by, and I can talk about questions that I see a lot of people get wrong or to be very careful with, and then we can prep the final package.
Okay, that is the only thing I miss, because depending of that form, I need to translate the documentation. For example, fully certificated. Well, by the week you said, I not need police certifications because the country Mexico is not required. That's right, or
yeah? So if you look at the work permit, so there's document requirements for a work permit from every country, and they're a little bit different from every country. And certain countries don't actually have a hard requirement for police certificates for work permits. In this case, Mexico is one of them, right? Like what I sent you is, if you go on the IRCC website, you can find the specific work permit document requirements by embassy, aka by country that you're applying from. For Mexico, it doesn't mention PCCs, just like some countries do, sometimes they don't. So in your case, it's not a hard requirement. And so the requirements were actually quite basic, right, in terms of documents. Obviously, it takes time to collect them and translate them and stuff like that. But
well, the documentation I have it, but I think the police certification can take time because getting the federal in Mexico, I think is needed for this percentage. I have read that to get the certification, RCC needs a request from days to the federal government, and I cannot go to the federal government and say I need a police certification for federal. So I need to RCC ask for that document in the express entry case. Okay, right. For the work permit, we see we review it in the week is not required. Okay. Mm-hmm.
But and some countries, so we've ran into a few countries that are like that. The one that comes to mind, because we're doing a work permit right now for an Israeli citizen, Israel works the same way. So some countries, you can just order a police certificate, but others, it sounds like Mexico and Israel and probably a few others, you have to submit the application first, and then IRCC or the Canadian government has to request it from them directly. So that process is a little bit different. So different, yeah. We'll confirm that. We'll confirm the forms. We'll confirm the translations. And then we'll come back in episode 4. And I think we should come back when we have the whole package ready and we can review it and talk about things that were hard, things that were easy. And then we can prep to send you on your way.
Okay.
Any last thoughts or questions?
Yes, Josh. For the part of medical certification, this needed medical certification for me and the family to the work permit?
That's a good question. I didn't check. One sec. I can tell you, because if you go on IRCC, and I have the link saved here for us in Notion, you can look up on the IRCC website whether, depending on the type of application you're submitting, and depending on the country that you're applying from, whether or not a medical is required. Let me, here, I'm going to actually share my screen. One second. I'm going to pull up this link, and maybe what I'll do is I'll share the link in the description. But you can basically scroll down and type in the country. And so, yeah, you can see here from Mexico, it's not required.
It's not required, yeah.
Now this is for temporary applications, right? So we can see here there's a separate tab for PR applications, right? It's a little bit different. But what this says here is if you're applying to become a temporary resident of Canada, so a worker, student, or visitor, you must have a medical exam if you want to come to Canada for more than 6 months, and you have lived or traveled for 6 months in certain countries in the year before you come to Canada. So in this case, I think, Andres, you've only lived in Mexico, right, for the last year?
Yes, in
And
the
so,
last
yeah,
life.
so we look up that country, and since it says no under required, then you do not need a medical.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So that's it
All
from
right.
my end.
That's it.
And
From my end, too.
wanted to thank everybody for tuning in as well. Mariella for the good question. If there's any more questions, even after the video, please feel free to leave a comment. Or if you enjoyed or have any feedback or thoughts, feel free to leave a comment on the video. It definitely helps us understand what people are interested in. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content and you want to keep up to date with the journey. We'll be airing episode 4 in the next week or two, and I'll make sure to post both on LinkedIn and on TikTok and on the Visto email list when we schedule the next live video so that people can plan ahead of time. Mariella says, thank you guys. Thanks very much, Mariella, for tuning in. And that's it for me. Andres, any last words before we head out?
No, thank you, Mariela, for listening us.
Yeah, we had a few viewers that were tuning in, which is awesome, and hopefully we'll have some more in the next episodes.
Yeah. The next episode will be live too, no? Do you agree?
I think we should just keep doing it live. It's kind of fun to do it live, and then the recordings stay up anyways, right? So people who want to check them out after can always rewatch after as well.
Correct. I agree. Okay.
Awesome. Gerardo says, thanks for the information. Gerardo, thanks for tuning in as well. Thanks again, everybody. Andreas, always a pleasure, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.